Thank you for the introduction, Supriya. Hey guys, thank you for getting on the webinar. I'm Michael. With me is James. I help head up the creatives for Asia Pacific, Middle East, Turkey, and Africa. James helps to head up the sales for Singapore, Malaysia, and Vietnam. So we are both based in Singapore, and we work across a broad range of geographies. During this session, we hope to talk about the effectiveness of building great creatives for the mobile device, and essentially why it's crucial to do so. So to start with, I think it's important to understand the space that mobile advertising occupies in the entire advertising ecosystem, and essentially how we got here. It's through this that we can actually understand how users perceive and interact with our ads and how we can better deliver brand messages. So we'll touch on a few pointers regarding the evolution of mobile advertising and generally how people perceive and how they actually don't really like mobile advertising that much initially. The truth is that most consumers are not big fans of mobile advertisements. Mobile ads tend to take up precious space on your otherwise small screen. They often pop up when you're in the middle of another application. They play an unrelated video prior to the one you actually wanted to watch. And all these kind of factors make for a rather annoying experience, which users are not a big fan of. And when you talk to planners from agencies, I think a lot of people are consumers as well as advertisers, and you can understand where people are coming from. So these kind of nuances, coupled with the fact that creatives in general were not well designed on the device, provides for a rather poor experience. Just for a bit of background, so the way networks traditionally did media on devices was to basically have a basic creative which they could just deliver to people. So it didn't matter at that point in time the nature, the type, and the quality of creative that was distributed. They just needed something to burn on the network so that they could charge clients. And because of that, there wasn't a real priority placed on the type of creatives that were created for the mobile device. And this is largely because of the relative infancy of mobile advertising as a platform compared to other more traditional forms of media. Like in the 1940s when TVs were first introduced, TV commercials were of radio presenters seated, reading an ad into a microphone, exactly how it was for radio. But instead of purely audio, now there was a video of them doing the exact same thing. And in the 1990s, when desktops were gaining popularity, especially with the advent of personal computers and access to the internet from home, brands too were initially hesitant about this new format. However, they still wanted to reach that new demographic. So they provided print-style assets to creative agencies for them to adapt for online banners. But we know how far desktop interactions have come. Everything from Flash and Java to HTML5 and CSS3 completely revolutionized the way people interacted with websites. And when smartphones were introduced at about 2010, brands tried to jump on the bandwagon by now supplying desktop assets, if any at all, to adapt for the mobile device. But creative assets are an integral part of the creative process. Often the ideas on the mobile medium are restricted to what is available and hence often limiting in what is possible. But advertising on a mobile platform provides new opportunities to advertisers to capitalize on the new technology provided by this medium. Smartphones are essentially radios, TVs, desktops, and more, all rolled into one. You can tap on the various technical aspects of the device that were never available on a computer, like the gyroscope, force touch, camera access, just to name a few. And a huge USP, and the main one actually, about mobile devices is about being able to intimately understand the consumer. Advertising on the mobile device is all about context, and the first step to that is truly understanding the user, which James will now touch on when he talks about engagement sciences.
Yeah, so thanks, Mike. So whilst this session is focused on creative, in Mobi we invest heavily in making sure that creative isn't looked at in isolation. We understand the reality that if we deliver fantastic creative but to the wrong audience, it's actually wasted budget for the brand. So being sure that we're reaching the right audience at the right moment is just as important for us as the actual creative itself. I think what's key to remember, and what we stress with all our partners, in that creative itself isn't a strategy, has to be aligned with in-depth targeting and actually measured on how it's delivering against the overall business goals of the campaign. So in regard to targeting, the process that we go through to build out the target audiences for brands. I'll start that again. So in regard to targeting, the process that we go through to build out the target audiences for brands is actually quite complex. There's a whole host of signals that we look at in combination, and most of these signals are different to what you might use on desktop. So for example, this could be the types of apps that someone has on their device. And this is typically quite unique from person to person. Content history, so looking at the types of sites that someone has visited over a period of time, and then also location. And location is becoming ever more important in what we do. We're typically using location in around 50% of the campaigns that we're delivering now. And when we say location, that's both in understanding where a person is at an immediate moment in time, but also, and probably more importantly, it's understanding the places that a person has visited over a period of time. And that gives us a greater perspective about who a person is and what their interests might be. And then added to this, we're seeing more and more clients coming to us now and asking us to activate their own first-party data, overlaying that with the targeting that we're already building. And then all of this will be used in combination to define who the target audience is. So once we understand who the audience are, we then need to think about what the mindset of the user is likely to be at the moments when we're actually looking to engage them throughout the day, and be sure that the creative strategy matches this. So people are using mobile throughout the day. We know that mobile is a constant throughout people's lives. But people's mindset changes hugely during the phases of the day, and this affects the category of ads that we're going to be receptive to, and also the types of ads that we engage with. So, for example, across most of the audiences and the campaigns that we run, we'll see higher session lengths and higher dwell times in the evenings and weekends. And similarly, we'll see people snacking on content during the day. So this needs to be factored in when considering the types of creative that are going to work best for your campaigns. And by the same token, location. So having an understanding of what a user is doing throughout the day and the moments that they're going to be most receptive to the creative formats that you're using is hugely important. And taking this a step further, we can then identify the key moments throughout the day when audiences are going to respond best to your brand and your brand messaging. And Mike's going to share an example from Rexona later, where location, time of day, and user mindset are all combined to build out a really strong creative strategy. So all this combined, we're looking to use historical and category level information, overlaying this with user level insights, what we know about the individual audiences that we're trying to reach, identifying the moments throughout the day that are going to be most receptive to the type of advertising that we're using throughout the campaign. Then once the campaign is live, actually using dynamic creative optimization to make tweaks on the fly to boost performance. And then all of this will go into delivering actual results and ROI for the campaign itself. Okay, so I'm now going to pass on to Mike, who's going to talk to you in a little bit more detail about the actual creative process itself.
Thanks. So as James has mentioned, there are all these targeting capabilities unique to the mobile device. But what do we deliver to consumers? Sometimes it might be better to deliver a great ad to the wrong person than a poorly created experience to the right audience. We have to be cautious about what we talk about when we talk about mobile creatives. As I spoke about earlier, people don't fancy mobile advertisements and find them a nuisance, and I can completely understand why. That is why Capstone was created. Capstone is a creative-first approach towards mobile advertising. We understand the importance of communicating with the consumer on the go, and the InMobi network allows us to truly understand our consumer. And with this information in hand, we can create experiences that genuinely engage with people. A big part of what we do is what we call engagement sciences. This means using metrics and HTML5 innovations to engage with people. It's not creatives for creative's sake. We measure everything we do and optimize the creatives accordingly. The goal is always to have users at the center and thus always create a contextually relevant interactions. We understand that we have a very small window of opportunity to speak with our audience before they start looking for the close or skip video button. We don't want to force people to watch non-skippable 1.5 minute videos. We want people to see a glimpse of what the brand offers and actually want to hang around and interact with us. With this in mind, I'll touch on the approach we take towards creating these experiences. More often than not, we receive one of two types of briefs. The sort of mobile campaign that runs in silo, or one that runs as part of an overarching campaign, meaning there's either print, desktop, TV, or maybe even an event running simultaneously. We approach them differently because they usually have different requirements and different KPIs. With regards to mobile campaigns running in silo, we tend to have more leeway in what we can do creatively. If and when appropriate, we try to devise new ways of interacting with the consumer with the technology that we have on hand. With these type of creatives, brand engagement and dwell time usually perform really well and are often potentially award-winning work. However, the drawback is that there are normally no assets provided, thus we do full production for assets in-house. We do end-to-end creatives, producing everything from video and photo shoots with stylists and all, to drone 360 panoramas at locations around the world. This allows us to work with the best possible raw assets on hand, and we're able to direct exactly what works on the mobile experience. We have recently had the privilege of working with Legoland Malaysia, where we shot multiple 360 gyros with a drone for a truly amazing interaction experience. We have also won multiple awards taking this innovation-led approach for some brands like Pond's, like Rexona, even Samsung, and a bunch of other brands. On the flip side, though, mobile campaigns that are running as part of an overarching campaign tend to have greater emphasis on metrics and are often concerned with KPIs amplifying other advertising channels. An example would be something that we created for Cornetto in Malaysia, where we simulated receiving a call from a ghost because we wanted to promote the comedic haunted TV commercials, which we won a Global Silver Award for. So the crucial point of all we do is always to remember that users must be at the center of the experience. It doesn't matter what type of innovations we have, if they are irrelevant to what the user is doing, if it's irrelevant to who they are and where they are. So all these things in mind, also like bearing in mind what James mentioned earlier regarding knowing and understanding who people are, we need to create our experiences that are really targeted at these kind of people. Technology and innovation simply provides us a means to communicate with these people on a more intimate level. So bearing that in mind, it's extremely important to understand through what medium we are talking to our consumers. And sometimes we have specific campaigns which target only certain devices, like maybe a Samsung S4 or an iPhone 3, or sometimes the goal is to target people across a multitude of devices. So there are different ways where we can develop and we can build for these type of devices. These are three of the main ones that we usually cater for. So mobile friendly usually refers to a website that was built prior to the trend of accessing the internet with mobile phones. They usually happen to work okay on mobile devices. They were not tailored for the mobile experience. I mean, like simple functions like looking for a contact us page on a mobile friendly website might be possible, where the user simply wants to look for a contact number to call the business. Or, for example, projects like mobile optimized rich media units. So, mobile optimized refers to the type of creatives that are delivered primarily on the mobile phone. So, these type of units are usually developed on a studio platform, or it might be like Celtra, or it might be like Bonsai. So these type of units allow brands to create and develop these type of rich media units very quickly and efficiently. However, there are some drawbacks. For example, when you want to load across multiple phablet or tablet or phone sizes, that might pose an issue with the backgrounds and it not aligning properly. And one of the benefits of working on mobile optimized pages and rich media units is that it essentially allows you to tap into various hardware features which are unique to the device. Stuff like a camera and gyroscope and like maybe parallax units by swiping. So these are some things which are unique to mobile optimized devices, units rather, which are not possible on responsive websites. So responsive essentially means collapsible websites where content follows the structure of the device screen. While this looks great, it's usually recommended for websites where it's content heavy, where there is a lot of information to display. However, when you run it on mobile devices, you are not able to access hardware functions like the ones I had mentioned earlier. Something else that we recommend we do often with brands is to have animated banners and animated rich media units. So these kind of banners have been proven to work about 2.8 times better than static banners. Animations are important also for engaging people, for keeping people's attention on the messaging. So sometimes within banners, the quick process is to create a static GIF and bring it live as quickly as possible. However, we don't recommend that because with static banners, especially given the size, there is not much information that you can put inside. One of the reasons people don't interact with static banners as much also is because when there is a lot of content, the font tends to be really small and illegible. So you use static banners usually if it's a very direct call to action, like maybe like downloading the application. So with animated banners, we have the advantage of multiple frames where we can include more message. It draws people's attention to the banner more, and it's able to be interesting in a very, very simple and quick manner. However, the flip side is that if you are not careful with animations, especially on banner, if you bury a call to action behind too many frames, it can actually be detrimental to your CTRs to expand the rich media unit. So something that we do often is also what we call immediacy of response. It's about understanding the way users interact with their mobile devices, whereby people in this day and age, at least, expect instant gratification. They expect an immediate reaction to their action. And these kind of habits will allow people to want to interact with ads more. So for example, if in the initial load of the ad unit, nobody holds their phone dead still. So you would tilt your phone a little bit while you're holding a device, and you would see, for example, a reaction in the background. And after a while, you will naturally notice that this movement follows the action of your device. And the action tends to be greater because you want to explore how far you can stretch this experience. So this is one of the reasons we practice immediacy of response, because like I mentioned a bit earlier, it is about getting users to want to interact with what we have to offer, what the brand has to offer. And there are numerous capabilities to the mobile device to trigger this response, such as gyro and vibration, voice sound recognition, and these type of capabilities, essentially allowing users to provide an action which the mobile device can automatically provide a reaction for. Also in this era, consumers are more inclined to haptic interactions. Options and technology like force touch and 3D touch allow users to actually squeeze their phone. And the harder you squeeze, a different reaction you'll get at a different point, at a different pressure point. And these pose a real interest for people, especially when they're just experimenting with what is possible through an ad unit. So something else that we found highly effective at keeping the user's attention, or at least at triggering their interest in an ad unit, is the demonstration of value very quickly. So for example, when we display the UV index on this OLED rich media unit, we are able to tell people, for example, how bad or how good, for example, the UV damage is on that particular day. So on top of telling you the exact index number, we also want to tell you the location that you are in, so that we can show that we know exactly where the consumer is. Because sometimes these kind of ads can seem a bit spammy to people. Also, we show a color chart at the bottom to indicate how bad or how good that number really is, because sometimes people don't understand the UV index. So it's through these kind of demonstrations of value which we find that people are interested to find out more, and people actually want to interact and learn more about a product which is relevant to their direct environment. So with all that in mind, there are some other concepts also that we apply to all our creatives. One of them would be location marketing. So the way we see location marketing, it is different from location targeting. Location targeting is simply sending people messages in relation to the location they are at. Whereas for us, what we see location marketing is, it's about getting users to directly interact with their environment. So we can employ things like Google Street View and rich media units to simulate a bird flying from the background of where you are to land on your phone screen before the trailer for the Angry Birds movie shows up. Or we can actually use the environment around the user to talk about the USP about Samsung Galaxy S6 camera. So what we did for this example was to blur out the surroundings around them, but everything through the lens of the S6 within the rich media unit is clearer, it's brighter, it's sharper, the colors are more saturated and more vibrant. So these are some examples of location marketing that we have employed. Also, tapping into various API sources allows us to communicate with clients in direct relation to where they are. This also helps us talk about, for example, the haze level in Singapore. When the pollutant standards index in Singapore reach a certain level, it could actually help push through Dyson's air purifying units together with showing them the nearest stores. Also for the dengue scenario in Singapore, dengue is a problem in Singapore during monsoon seasons. Dengue mosquitoes breed and they cause a lot of problems for the community there. So we are actually able to tap on this kind of data sources to tell people exactly the number of dengue cases around them. When they zoom out, they're actually able to see a heat map of Singapore. So the areas with yellow circles are areas with some cases of dengue, and the areas with red circles are actually locations with a high amount of reported dengue cases. So API integration allows us to tap on a lot of information. Earlier you saw how we used it for UV index. We can even use it for PSI, for dengue, for humidity, for precipitation, chance of rain. And there are a lot of ways we can actually use API and tailor it for the consumer or the brand messaging. So video is also another interesting format for mobile devices. Traditionally, video was shot in 4:3 because televisions were squarish, and then later it became 16:9 because of widescreen televisions. So brands haven't really started shooting video for the vertical format yet. However, vertical format video has proved to be a lot more effective than like simply slapped on horizontal video. So we actually create these type of videos for brands. For example, sometimes brands only have horizontal format videos. We are able to crop them, storyboard them, get them approved by the client before we take them live. Something else that we are also developing would be what we kind of call Snapchat style videos. So Snapchat style videos by brands at least typically run on three factors. They are usually short form, they are always vertical, and there is usually like fun handwriting on top of the video. So we can actually push through these type of videos on the ad network. We can let people either upload them or we can actually take these videos from advertisers themselves. We can also create videos to be interactive. In the Dior example, users are actually able to tap on any element within the video to interact with the different products in play. So by tapping on different things, users can actually find out more. For example, if they tap on the bag, if they tap on the dress. So we can have a little picture in the bottom that shows up. We can also show the name, we can show the price and the description, and all these are little bits of information about the video itself. So video innovation doesn't simply mean pre-roll. It's about being able to engage with consumers on a meaningful level. Also with creative technology, we do a lot of innovation that is only available on the mobile device. So this provides us a lot of opportunities for unique methods of communicating with people. Everything from force touch for Audi, for example, you can see the start-stop experience button. It was in direct relation to the start-stop button within cars. So you can see with pressure, if you press hard enough, it engages the button. If you don't press that hard, you can actually see the button squeeze in a little bit and then bounce out. So this is what we call true haptic interactions. It is not simply about tapping on a button and having your phone vibrate or shaking a device for an effect. Those are simulated haptics. Real haptics involve an action again and a reaction which the consumer would expect. So something else also we tapped on for Garuda a couple of years back was to promote the world's best cabin crew for 2014. So we actually let users blow into the microphone. So by blowing into the microphone, users could actually part clouds before revealing the people in the background. Today we can actually tap on various aspects of the microphone of the device, from speech recognition to volume and different languages. So there are a lot of things that we can do in the name of innovation that are possible. But we must always bear in mind also that it should be the user at the center of the interaction, and we must not forget or stray from the messaging just because we want to showcase different types of technology. So just a couple of examples regarding some case studies that we have done before. So this was a unit that we had created for Sunsilk in Singapore. At that point in time, they wanted to promote the pop-up stores that were happening around the country. So we had Naomi Neo, who is a social influencer in Singapore, simulate a call to you as a consumer. So when you answer the call, she would actually talk to you in a cheery voice and she'd tell you, hey, there are a number of pop-up stores around you. Maybe you would like to go check out one of them. So as you can see, it looks exactly like your operating system. We have one for Android devices and one for Apple devices. And every button within the operating system, the simulated one at least, is operable. So you could actually decline a call and you could fast forward to the last frame, or you could actually accept and you could hear what she was talking about. So these kind of nifty interactions, people generally don't mind, or they actually want to interact with. This scored an interaction rate of 97.2%, which is pretty incredible. I think also with these type of rich media units, people tend to want to just find out more even though they weren't interested in the brand. They might want to find out more because it's a new ad or it's a new experience that they've never tried before. So they don't mind taking out the extra time to just interact and play around with these type of units to find out more about what's possible. Another example would be for Pawns Indonesia. Here we created a truly unique mobile interaction experience for Pond's Acne. So it's a product that actually targets a specific acne spots on the user's face. So what we did was create technology which would track the user's face and track different features around their face, which they could tap on to find out more about how to look after that spot. So this is again talking about putting users at the center and understanding consumer behavior. Understanding that people would always be facing their mobile devices when they were using it. And so we capitalized on the fact that they were already looking at their phones and how we could tap on their front-facing cameras to track their face features and in essence be able to talk to them exactly about the different areas or the different concerns that they may have about the different spots on their face. So we are able to detect and we're able to track different aspects of a person's features, and all these kind of things in essence has to be again relevant to what the user is doing or where the person is and if it ties in with the brand messaging. So with that, I'll hand it over to James again to talk about the creative effectiveness and how we measure these kind of things and the benefits of these type of interactions.
Okay, so thanks, Mike. So there's some absolutely awesome examples of creative and campaigns there. I think you'll agree. But one thing we're often asked, and I think rightly so, is how do we actually know that the creative that's being recommended and the creative that's being delivered is actually going to deliver against the campaign goals? I know you can, you could detect the T-zone of my face, and I love that fact. But is that actually delivering against my campaign metrics? Is it going to work? And that's a fair and fundamental question. So to help with that and actually put some science behind the creativity, we have an exhaustive database which contains all of the data for all of the campaigns that we've ever built. And this is built out against all of the key measures, so engagement rates, interactions, dwell times, click-through rates, all those types of things. And alongside this, we also run effectiveness studies for most of the rich media campaigns that we run, so essentially asking people how they feel about the ads. So this graph then shows a simplified version of the database. So for each of the creative formats that Mike is just taking you through, these are all mapped out against the two most common KPIs that we're asked to deliver against. So this will either be, how do we increase awareness and shift brand metrics, or how can we drive sale, deliver sign-ups, and deliver conversions. So once we plot each of the different creative functions onto the graph, you can see that each of the creative elements that taps into the native functions of the phone, so the camera, the gyroscope, the street view, these are delivering really high levels of interaction, really good dwell times, so these score very highly for brand engagement and awareness. Once we look at creative such as video, so traditional pre-roll video, which is down the bottom there, this scores well for awareness, but not so well for response, similar to what you might find for TV. And once you add in the end card, however, suddenly the video starts to deliver against a response metric, and once we add in actual kind of full interactive functionality within video, then actually video is scoring very well both for awareness and for interactivity. So whilst we're running all of these campaigns, it's very much all of this campaign data that the creative team will look back on and they'll reference, and this will be used extensively when we're making recommendations for creatives that are going to be used for any particular campaign. So along with understanding the data behind the campaigns that run on InMobi, we obviously need to understand and be sure that mobile as a channel should be invested in, and this actually delivers value when compared against other media. So this last slide gives a snapshot of an extensive piece of research that we ran alongside Mindshare and Unilever in Indonesia. And the goal of the study was to understand the effectiveness of TV advertising when used in isolation compared with the same campaign when it was targeted to audiences that were exposed to both TV and mobile advertising. So it's quite a complex methodology. If you want full details of both the methodology and the results, you can head to the InMobi website. But as a snapshot of results, you can see here that against key measures, so purchase intent, awareness, ad recall, these are all significantly higher when audiences were reached with both the TV and mobile creative versus just TV on its own. So, really good validation that mobile advertising is working and it's an effective medium in its own right. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. So thanks very much for joining. As closing remarks on behalf of Mike and myself, just like to say, keep thinking user first. So build both the creative and the targeting strategy with the user at the center. Think mobile first. As you've seen, the creatives that are actually customized for mobile are scoring highest against all of the studies that we run. Ensure that the creative and the actual targeting strategy is built around the KPIs and not vice versa. That's really important. And lastly, be bold. From our experience, what we see is that audiences respond fantastically to real innovation on mobile. So be bold, have fun, and experiment. So that brings us towards the end. So I'm now going to pass on to Supriya, and I think we're going to take some live questions.